Good morning, stitching friends. I'm here to make the next step of our composition notebook cover. Let me put the camera back down on my surface and we'll get busy. Okay, here we go. Now, we have to cut a piece of batting for our composition notebook cover. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this composition notebook onto here, and I'm just going to draw around it just like this. We want our batting to be the same size as our composition notebook. Okay, now that I've drawn around there, I'm actually going to put it right here on top of my batting. And cut off some of this extra. This paper is just some paper that comes in a roll. Cut it down a little bit to make it a little more manageable when I'm trying to put it on here. I'm not actually cutting on the lines. I'm just cutting off the excess. Now we only need one piece. So we're just going to put this up here. And we're going to put a couple of pins in it. One more for good measure. Okay, and now we're just going to cut this out. And we're going to cut right on the line that I've drawn. Get that out of the way. Okay, now we got our batting cut out, and what we're going to do is we're going to center this on our backing piece. And it's not actually a backing piece, it's the inside piece of our composition notebook cover. Okay. Now I've cut a piece of the fabric that we're using, and I've cut it the same size as our top. Now I'm just going to take this, and I'm going to center this into the center of this piece of fabric, just like I did before. So we're just going to put this right in the center. I'm going to add a few pins to it. I think it needs to be moved up a tiny bit. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Now we're just going to put in a few pins to hold it in place so it's not wiggling out of place while we're trying to stitch. Okay, this is ready for our stitching, and we'll come back to this in just a minute. Now, this right here, we've got it all ironed and everything stitched down. It looks really nice and flat. It's like a brand new piece of fabric. And what we're gonna do is we're going to turn this over and we're gonna sew right along our stitch line all the way around with just a colorful piece of thread so you can see it. Well, I lost my scissors. Hang on a second here. Here they are. Okay. I'm just going to grab me a needle. I hope I have one in here. No, I don't. So I'm going to grab me a needle. And okay, I'm back. All right, I've grabbed me a needle, and I've got some of this orange 12 weight thread. And I'm just going to thread my needle, put a knot down here in the bottom. And now I'm just going to stitch on my, I'm going to just do a running stitch all the way around on my sewing line. Now this will help me when I'm stitching on the front, keep my stitching away from this line, because this is the line that I'm going to be sewing on, and this line is the line that we don't want to stitch beads or anything on this side over this line, because then it'll interfere with when we're trying to sew it together. But I do want, so I want a nice colorful thread so I can see what I'm doing. And this way, I can just stitch all the way around here with a nice running stitch. I'm just going to kind of just, it's not going to be anything perfect. It's just on the line so that it gives me a nice stitch line right here. So that, I don't know if you can see that, but it's got a nice little stitch line. So you don't go over that on the front when you're putting on beads or stitches or anything that you're doing. You do not want to go past this line, because this line needs to be free. So when you sew the composition notebook together, you have it all done without having anything in your way, because you don't want to break a needle on your beads or something like that. So we're just going to stitch all the way around here. And I'm just doing a running stitch. And this is the same stitch that I did when I anchored down the pieces onto the base of it. It's just a running stitch, nothing fancy. You know, it's just to serve the purpose of not sewing beads or something over this line. And when you're done stitching on the other side, you're going to take this thread out. So it's not a permanent thread, it's more or less a guide. It's a beautiful morning today here in Florida. The sun shining. It's not cold. It's cool out. But it isn't cold at all. It's just nice. Which is what you expect in Florida on a spring day. And it's not quite spring, but it's getting so close. And yesterday, it was pretty hot out. But today it's a little cooler, and it's got a cold front coming, so we're waiting for that. This is kind of relaxing. It's not, you don't have to be precise about anything. And it's this stitch this also keeps the edges down, so you're not having them fly up. They're anchored to this back piece too, so that also helps. And tomorrow we're going to talk about our designs and where I get my designs from and how I get my designs. And we're just going all the way around, stitching this orange thread onto the back of our composition notebook base. No real rhyme or reason, just getting it on there so we know where our boundaries are. Okay, we're running out of thread, so I'm not even tying a knot in that. I'm just going to get another piece of thread. Okay, we're almost done here. We just got one more row to go down. And a few more inches to go. Ouch, poked myself. And leaving this stuff out is kind of a hassle because then you can't see where you're going and you're constantly looking on the other side to make sure you're not going over your stitch line. And so this just makes it so you can just like at just a glance realize that you're too close to the stitch line or that you have a little further to go on your stitch line. Okay, there we go. Now we have our orange line all the way around on our stitching line. And that way we have a boundary and we will not go over that. Now we're going to move on to this right here. And these right here. These are our inside pocket pieces. I cut them roughly about the same size as I cut my base. They're a little bit bigger, but I'll cut them down. I've got 4 pieces, 2 of one fabric and 2 of another fabric. All of the same fabrics that I'm using for this. So we'll be using those in a little bit later. Here are pockets right here. And I have one more piece that I need to stitch down on the pocket. Get another needle. Alright, and then this is the last thing. I've got everything on the pockets and on the base all stitched down except for this right here, and I'm just going to show you that I'm just going to do a running stitch. It's nothing fancy, it's just Taking your time. Removing the pins as I go. I'm just going to tie a knot in this little piece right here. And then all of the top and the pockets have been stitched down. And we're ready to move on to the next step. Okay, there we go. It's all stitched down. Okay, now we're going to move these over here. And we're going to work on this piece. Now, what I do with this piece, usually I draw lines on here so that I have kind of spaced out lines. But this already has lines on it because it's a plaid. So I'm just going to go with that and use those lines. And I'm going to get some embroidery thread because I like to use 6 strands of embroidery thread. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, guys. Alright. I got a few yellows right here. I'm just going to go with these right here. I'm going to cut me a nice string here. Nice piece. This is 6 strands of embroidery floss, DMC. Okay, so I'm just going to tie a little knot right here. And now what I do, this is what I do to quilt this piece. Now this piece, I'm just going to find where I want to start, and I'm going to start, here's the edge of my batting is right here. And I'm going to start right on this section right here. Kind of down here at the bottom. And I'm just going to do a chain stitch. And I'm just going to come up, wrap it around, and pull it through. Then I'm going to go do another one until I've ran down this whole entire line. This is getting our backing ready. Okay, now I'm going to just go down to anchor these. And then I'm going to skip a space, however big I feel like skipping. And I'm going to stay on the same line and just move up a little bit. And I'm going to do a few more stitches. And I'm just going to do this whole piece like that. I'm just going to keep going down. And so you can see what it's doing. So I'll just do a little part, then I'll skip a part, then I'll do a little part, and I'll just do that over this. And I'll put about this much in between each space. But this just quilts this batting to our backing. And then that way when we're ready to stitch it all together, we've got our backing all done and ready to go. I like to have things ready to go because when I'm done stitching, after all that time it takes to stitch my designs, I want to be able to just put this thing together. Okay, so that's, and then I'm going to go down again. And then I'm going to move up a little bit. And I'm going to do it all over again. And that's what I'm going to do for this whole piece. And I'm trying to just keep it on the same, that's what I draw. If I don't have lines on here, I'll draw lines on here so I can keep them straight and going in the right direction.